So, as you can see, we are in our new studio aboard the Carrack. At least Alex and I are. Sean is still in Spain. And we are actually just had a bit of a hiccup because we had...
My leg still hurts.
His leg is still throbbing. We had we realized that we needed to eat and drink.
No, just tell him what it is. You shot me.
Right. Well, I mean, I want to tell the whole story. So realized we needed to have a little bit of drink of something, even though we've only been here for a few minutes. And as Alex was standing up, he got, stuck in the wall on top of the table. And I had to perform an emergency maneuver, i.e. shooting him in the leg so that he could get free. And now none of the panels work. So in true Star Citizen fashion, Alex is sitting here with a couple of 9mm bullets in his leg. And he's complaining.
I have a tier 2 leg wound.
He's complaining a lot. So that brings us to one of the subjects we want to talk about, which is the food and drink mechanics in this game right now, and the painfully quick way that they deplete, almost to the point where it sucks, right, Sean?
I just want to know, when are they going to release the Yoo-hoo over my right shoulder?
It's not Yoo-hoo, it's Flood.
It's Yoo-hoo. Brown can, yellow logo, blue letters. It's frickin' Yoo-hoo.
Anyway.
So the issue with the food and drink system currently is I think it just depletes too fast. It makes sense that it punishes people who wear heavy armor probably the most severely, considering they're carrying around so much stuff all the time. But it also seems like it impacts people who wear medium and light armor or no armor at all, like pretty severely still. And this is based on my personal experience because I usually wear light armor. And I have to drink just as much as you two do, and you two typically wear heavy armor. So I feel like that could be balanced a little bit better, especially since it's such a headache to have to manage these things on top of everything else that happens in the game already.
Well, I remember before the most recent update, before they did the money wipe, that's when I noticed like the big change. I would need to drink maybe once every hour or so just to get back up to 100%. And now I feel like it's every 10, 15 minutes that my character has to take a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really often. And I've always thought that it was related mostly to the size of armor that you're wearing, because like you mentioned, Alex and I are almost always in heavy armor. But to hear that you are struggling with it as well, because you wear mostly light armor, I think that's a little bit of a surprise to me. And that kind of tells me that maybe there is something going on. Like it's not taking into account the level of armor you're wearing and stuff.
Yeah.
Or maybe even accounting for physical activity in general.
I mean, I've done a lot of running and jumping
we tried
around
to test
in an undersuit, and it seems like it takes longer to accumulate thirst and hunger when you're only in an undersuit or naked, as opposed to in armor in general.
Yeah.
Well, I also tested that one night where I wore a helmet and didn't wear a helmet on the ship, and when you didn't have a helmet on, your thirst seemed to go a little bit longer.
Like it took longer for it to deplete?
Yeah, it took longer for it to go down when you didn't have a helmet on, so it's like almost breathing the air in your helmet causes you to get thirsty faster.
Well, that's weird.
I don't know.
Could have just been a psychological trick on me, or it could be actual truth.
Without actual scientific testing, like where we sit there and try and time it consistently, I don't think we're in any place to, make a specific claim about it. But I will say, I find that if that is true, I would find that very strange, because if anything, when you're wearing a suit of armor, you would think that your humidity is stuck in the armor with you. So, I mean, unless you're sweating profusely, I don't really see any reason why you would get dehydrated quicker, apart from wearing heavy armor that is physically exhausting to move around in.
It's like we need undersuits to work like Dune still suits.
That's what I
recycle.
That's what I was
body moisture.
That's what I was under the impression that they do, because for instance, some of the more advanced suits that they have nowadays, the the quickest way, like, people will sit there and say, oh, air conditioning and stuff isn't really possible inside of a suit of armor, which is true if you think about air conditioning, for example, in the conventional sense where it uses a radiator and condenser. But the fastest way that they can do this is by having a kind of like they do in Halo. I think somewhere in the Halo lore they touch about how the Mjolnir undersuit has conductive gel inside it. But the fastest way for the human body to dump heat and or absorb heat is through the bottom of your feet and your wrists and like the back of your head. So, if they had gel areas in the suits and subsequently helmets for that, like I said, I don't really see any reason for somebody to overheat and or freeze if they're in armor that's capable of withstanding environment that they're in.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be some kind of climate regulation or body regulation because you can wear an undersuit and helmet in space,
right?
So there must be some kind of temperature control built into it.
Yes, and I believe that the reason these suits even work in space at all is because they're doing something called They were an experimental suit back when NASA was still figuring out how to make spacesuits, because you can make them one of two ways. You can either make a spacesuit that is a self-contained atmosphere like they currently are, where, they're basically fat suits and you just kind of sit inside it. So it's more like an exoskeleton. And then the other type is a compressive suit where it physically, you're basically binding your body together, holding it together to keep it from coming apart in space, where it has no resistance otherwise.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
That's like the simplest way to put it. So I imagine, especially since all of these undersuits are skin tight, they're most likely compressive. And, they probably have, I would safely say, more than 20 layers to them that, do anything from temperature control to, depending on how complicated the suit is to...
well, it's like to keep you cool, it probably takes whatever body heat you're producing and just releases it, because I'm thinking of it like a wetsuit.
Yeah, but you can't just release heat into space without a radiator. Like, there's no medium to transfer heat into space, so any heat that you build up somewhere has to go somewhere, and that's got to be a heat sink.
It could be spewing out when we're doing the maneuvering thrusters.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could make an argument that maybe some of the heat is being used to drive the propellant system. I mean, that's possible. It's not, it is 300 years in the future.
I mean, we're thinking way too sciencey on this.
I'm just...
Yeah, maybe it's none of that. It's just all video game logic.
Yeah, I'm...
Hey, why does it work like this? Because...
I'm definitely putting a lot of a science spin on it, but this is just a really roundabout way of me saying that I don't think the suits are as compromising as the game devs would lead us to believe.
So the main contributing factors that I guess that should be associated with how quickly your nutrients and liquid deplete are like physical exertion, the weight you're carrying, which I guess is also still physical exertion, and the level of armor you're wearing, which is also physical exertion. So I guess there's an error somewhere. What?
Or it's just RNG.
Or it could just be like a timer, right? Maybe it's how like things stay broken for a long time because they're working on a new way to deal with it.
Yeah, that's also possible.
And they're also working on those different types of suits or different types of armor. There's like utility armor and combat armor and all that kind of stuff. I wonder if maybe there's a relationship there coming that will be like utility armor, since it's made for, maybe mining or whatever, which is more physically exerting, will have better regulation on thirst and stuff like that. Kind of like the way, like I'm blanking on the name, the yellow armor, the Uberef or Ukor. What's it? Yeah, Novikov.
And then there's
armor,
Pembroke
and Novikov, right? The way that they work on the extreme temperatures of certain planets and moons. Maybe there's something like that along those lines coming soon with these new armor types that'll help regulate nutrients better.
I did see it working. It kind of looked like something out of Titanfall, honestly, if it was a simpler helmet.
Oh, you talking about that one I don't know if it was a leak, but that one released armor mock-up
Yeah, it was like,
with the tiny little peanut head.
I think so. I can pull a picture of it here in a second. If you want to continue with the point you were making about the armor.
I was just saying that, like, maybe the reason the system isn't working correctly could be related to the fact that they're basically going to redesign the way it works in general, kind of like the way the star map was just broken for like 10 patches. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we have this new star map coming soon. So it was really apparent that like they weren't going to invest a bunch of effort into fixing something that was going to be completely overhauled anyway later on.
Yeah.
So maybe these new armor types are going to address the speed at which your liquids and foods deplete.
I would think that they would.
Or it simply could have been like, oh, we're implementing a new system. Oh, for some strange reason, it conflicts with the food and water system. It doesn't do any. It doesn't hurt it that much. We'll worry about it later.
That could be too. And then we know that we're going to have to use the restroom and like
I don't know about
shower and keep ourselves clean at some point. Well, I mean, that's what they talk about.
I am so pooping all over your ship.
I mean, go for it. But from what I understand, eventually we're going to have to do, regulating things like that. And from what I've heard, things like not showering and being dirty could affect your reputation in some places. Like people won't want to deal with you because you stink. And then I'm not sure what would happen if you didn't use the restroom. And I don't want to speculate on here. But maybe
I'm sure you'll take health damage.
I don't know about
that. Think so? You think it'd be health? That
maybe
just
catch a disease.
Yeah, like illness. Like I wonder if illness will be a component too. But essentially, like we have these new sort of like hygiene things coming in as well. Maybe they're related to the way nutrition and hydration work.
Interesting. I don't know.
This is leading me into thinking the whole death of a spaceman thing they were talking about.
Death by pooping.
No, how like making me think about like the health and pretty much they want to do permadeath in the game, and part of me thinks it's like if I die and all I lose is my reputation and stuff like that, I can live with that. But if I were to die and lose all of my money, items, and everything like that, I would be freaking furious.
Yeah, I think Death of Spaceman is probably only going to relate to whatever items you had on your person. And then, yeah.
Which is fine. It's
and
understandable.
Then space dysentery. I just saw that comment. And then also your reputation. You'll probably take a hit to reputation in some way. Also, what I have up on my screen right now is the armor in question that I was talking about.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think of this other than it just kind of looks like another suit of armor that they made.
When I first saw that, it was out of context. Like I didn't even realize that was from CIG. I thought that was like a fan art mock-up of somebody's idea of armor.
Right.
Because it just doesn't really look refined at all. It's super kind of like low. It's not low poly per se, but the textures are very basic and simple. So I thought it was like somebody's mock-up.
We go to Pyro. Sean dies of space dysentery.
Yeah, definitely getting space dysentery.
I see that in chat.
And if you look in, if you could zoom into like the chest area, you can see it kind of looks like CDF armor, I think.
A little bit. I see what it's here. Like the armor mounting piece. I have to see if I can zoom in a little bit more.
Yeah, just send me the link in Discord so I can put it up on the screen for people watching. And for those who are only listening, our non-video participants here, it's you've probably seen it if you're a fan of Star Citizen, but it's basically just kind of like a plain gray and blue armor set with a kind of flat top helmet and a clear visor.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it came out of Dune, honestly.
What's that armor? The armor set that you usually can get out of the cargo area. It just consists of a helmet and undersuit, but it looks like it has armor to it.
Isn't that the Novikov that we were talking about?
Yeah, that's it. That's what it looks like. The Novikov armor,
slim,
but more streamlined.
I sent it to you, by the way.
Yeah, I downloaded it, and it is not okay. Yeah, there it is. Sorry, I'm trying to upload it here.
That's fine. But yeah, I don't know if they're going to go down the route of actually have to freaking take a shit. Because one of the the devs, one of their dev blogs, they jokingly said that they could probably repurpose the ice cubes, no, the ice cubes in the whiskey drinks you can buy as for the poop physics. But they really were joking about that. So I don't know if that's necessarily a part of it. I could see hygiene being a part, like taking a shower maybe might give you a bonus of, hey, you smell nice, or something, like, because those are aspects that are in like RPG games. Like for instance, if you take a shower in Cyberpunk, it'll give you I think like an hour, it'll give you an XP, like, or a rep gain. So like if you gain rep during that time frame, you'll gain a little bit more, like a smidge more. And in the same vein, if you sleep in Cyberpunk, you get an XP boost for an hour. So it's like there are other games that kind of do similar passive things where they encourage you to do something.
I mean, it goes as far back as Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Your character had to work out and bulk up, and it was one of those things you physically had to do, and you had to keep working out over time. You ate too much, your character got fat.
Didn't he also get really skinny if you didn't eat anything?
Yep. And then it affected your physical fighting.
Right.
I don't think that level is slated to be in this game. I'm
saying I'm saying, but having to maintain stuff like that is understandable. Like, I could see us now, like, we play for a few hours and the game in time passes like a week. We get off the ship, we're going to be rank.
I guess so, but also I don't want hygiene to be another chore, like we're already worried about eating and drinking enough, and now we have to remember to shower every 8 game hours or something. That's
no, it's simply we can just do it as when you're going to contact someone, you have to meet them in person, take a goddamn shower.
Yeah,
but how long is that going to take?
No, I have.
It's just so hard to get anything done in general.
I have to wait,
and now I have to do this other small task.
I have to wait on your side though with this, Mike, because I see it as another chore. So if it's an optional thing that you can do that doesn't really affect anything, sure, whatever. That's
just
nice,
boosts,
I guess. I don't.
Maybe it's kind of like charisma, in games that have that kind of thing where a higher charisma kind of nets you a better opportunity for making a deal. Like maybe it functions that way. You're not necessarily penalized for being dirty, but you have a better price or a better rating or something if you're, relatively clean when you go and visit the mission giver or try to sell stuff at a person and not just a terminal.
Yeah, and I think that's a better way to implement it too, is, you're not punished and penalized for just wanting to play the game, as a game. But, you also, as you said, you have opportunities to, give yourself just a little boost, just by doing a little extra thing.
Because you got to think about it. Then they have to make where you have people with starter ships that don't even have bathrooms.
So what are they supposed to do?
Where would they go? They'd have to open bathrooms up in the game.
Like if you own an Aurora and you start in Pyro, good fucking luck, finding a bathroom.
Right. Unless there's a RV hookup outside where you can hose yourself off in space or something.
Oh god, we're chasing a ship and they just dump the black water tank.
Talk about a dirty flare.
It's stop. No. Either one of two things. They'll deter the person or that person's going to chase them down even harder.
Well, first they got to get the poop off their screen, bro.
Windshield wipers go. Oh god, it's just smearing.
We've moved into ship speculation territory. This would be a good time to talk about the 7 unreleased, or I guess 7 unannounced ships that are going through the pipeline.
Oh yeah. I don't even know what I want to say about that. I think one of the devs hinted at a possible Crusader starter ship because they said they wanted to do one, but beyond that, I have no idea other than potentially another smaller refueling ship for Pyro.
Like a medium-sized one,
Yeah.
or an actual small one?
Like a medium-sized one, because they already have the Vulture concepted, which is like a medium repair / refuel. So, and since it does both, I'm assuming that its refueling capability probably won't be as impressive as a dedicated refueling ship. So I was thinking it would probably fall somewhere in between the Vulture and the Starfarer.
Yeah.
Well, I had the idea about the Connie refueler. Basically, where the cargo goes is just one giant fuel tank, and you drop the snub fighter for a lowering platform where you could refuel someone.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about that, but I don't see it at all. Like,
No.
I mean, I get there's just nowhere to put. If you think about the Starfarer, like the armatures and all that stuff required for the refueling arm, like I just don't know where that's going to go in the Connie. Even if it's smaller, like it would still be like a third of the ship. I don't really think a Connie would be big enough to do it.
See, well, I mean, that's if we're using the existing refueling tanks. If they made smaller ones that are detachable, perhaps. But I personally thought maybe some variant of the raft might be more appropriate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, weren't you talking about the raft maybe being a good
instead of where it holds the cargo containers?
Yeah, like it has maybe two little fuel sacks or something, and then the arm for the refueling.
Yeah, and then presumably the arm for the refueling would be controlled by that crane operator's seat that's in the top rear.
Mm-hmm. See, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But it would still be very tiny. I mean, it would maybe refuel a fighter or two.
I don't know about that, because that seems more like the Vulcan's role. I think this would have, if it was supposed to be, a mid-range ship, I think it would have to have at least enough to equate one tank on the Starfarer, one of the big tanks.
Okay. Yeah, like if you could think of the Starfarer tanks as kind of a unit, and the Starfarer has 8 of them, right?
I think
Or
it's 6. Yeah, it's 6.
So it has 6 units. Maybe the Vulcan, being a medium size, would have 3, and then smaller one like the Raft would have 1.
I honestly, with the size of the Vulcan and how much space the drones take up, I think it would only have room for maybe 2 or 1 worth of that tank size. But that's just me looking at the physical limitations of the Vulcan.
Yeah, but we've also haven't seen much of anything from the Vulcan except for the concept art.
I mean, we did get a cutaway from the concept art, but you are correct, as the ship's dimensions could change as they put it through white box.
Right. I think one of the other, first I like the speculation around a Crusader starter ship. I think Crusader has some of the best looking ships in the game, and they are
just their doors.
They are just kind of lacking in the starter ship department. And I don't know if they did make a starter. Do you think it would have like 4 doors to get to the pilot
obviously.
cockpit? But I think the other thing that we know about, or at least we've seen kind of vaguely, was what has been deemed the Fat Fury, which is like supposedly Mirai's medium fighter or heavy fighter.
It looks like it's just going to be a Fury with a quantum drive.
I mean, it's definitely bigger though if you look at it, because there's like a person kind of for scale in the image that you can see. It looks to be a pretty decent size as far as fighters go, like probably around the size of a Saber.
It kind of almost looked like the size of a Scorpius even, or close.
Yeah, they're pretty similarly sized. And then, of course, we probably will have another ground vehicle or two, which what I think is kind of missing is something a little bit bigger than a mule, especially with the cargo stuff that's coming in. The mule just isn't going to cut it moving like 1 SCU crates in and out of a ship.
Yeah, I feel like
if not something to carry cargo like a mule, a flatbed truck.
Yeah, that's what I would think. It'd be like a 6-wheel flatbed kind of pickup truck looking thing that holds maybe like 32 SCU, like 2 16s on it, something like that.
Think about like a flatbed tow truck. You can put like a huge container on that, and it's not it's just one solid truck. You don't have to worry about it, jackknifing.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, one piece, but it also has to be short enough or small enough to fit it and the cargo into a cargo bay and be able to lift it. So that is going to limit the size of it to a certain extent.
I did see an interesting concept that someone came up with where it was basically the Anvil Atlas platform, so the Spartan, Centurion, Ballista, but they basically chopped off the back half of it, and I think they relocated the door slightly. But basically they made a truck out of it, like an actual cargo carrying sort of not a pickup truck per se, but like an actual truck. So I thought that was interesting, but I agree with you in the sense that I think whatever they could come up with would have to be small enough to be able to drive it around the hangars. At the very least, the medium-sized hangars, so that you don't potentially fall into the elevator if the hangar elevator is down. The Atlas platform in general is terrible, so it would not be a good vehicle for that.
Yeah, it has like the worst turn radius of all the ground vehicles. But what I was thinking is, like, if we think about Pyro coming out soon and kind of the logical needs that might apply to it. We've talked about refueling because, Pyro is huge, and I doubt that repair would come in, and it would be a far off concept if it did. And the additions of cargo, obviously at least to me, obviously there's a need for a larger kind of ground cargo carrying vehicle. What are some of the other needs for Pyro maybe that could influence other ships, like maybe an interdiction ship or something like that?
Well, I think that's what the new Saber variant is supposed to be, something for interdiction.
Yeah, that's kind of the speculation right now. Although the green color that they're applying to it is kind of maybe a bit of a red herring, because I always view interdiction as either red or blue, typically red, given like the color of the
Police
devices that do it. And of course, police. But I don't know. It's either that or I've seen some speculation about it being a racing variant, which is, I don't know. I don't know why they would need a medium-sized racing ship.
Yeah, I don't see them. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't see them putting out another racing ship anytime soon. I think if they're any form of intelligent at CIG, what they'll probably be doing is making stuff that they can sell for Pyro. Like, oh, hey, This is the quintessential XYZ ship or ground vehicle that you absolutely must have for Pyro, for the best Pyro experience. And yeah, I mean, that's just what they typically do. I mean, that's that's essentially how they sold or I guess resold the Reclaimer, because, people were like, oh, the Reclaimer's useless. It doesn't have any purpose. And then they changed 3 things about it and said, hey, this is the quintessential salvage ship. You need this for salvage. So, that's kind of my thinking.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking. But now that you're talking, I'm kind of wondering if maybe they already did that, because the aside from the things maybe we pointed out right now that are missing, I think exploration is kind of like a big selling point for Pyro. And we have the Rambler, the cutter Rambler that came out, and that one's basically an exploration ship. We have, maybe they'll rework the turtle. Oh God, I'm blanking on the name.
Terrapin?
The Terrapin. Maybe they'll rework the Terrapin so it's actually useful or something.
Well, you've also got the base model of the Zeus coming, which is an exploration ship. Yeah,
the Zeus, and of course the Connie, the
well,
Aquila.
no, there's the Zeus cargo, the Zeus, basically the bounty hunter one, and then there's a Zeus exploration.
Yeah, but the base model of the Zeus, from what I understand,
is the cargo variant. I believe.
I was under the impression that it was the exploration one, but I could be wrong. That at least when they
to my knowledge, it's the cargo variant coming out first.
Well, it's not a matter of which is coming out first. From what I saw when I originally, and again, I could be wrong, but when I originally saw their initial presentation, they presented the exploration variant as the, base model, and then the other 2 were variants of that base model.
Well, that would be interesting, because we have evidence of other ships that the cargo variant is the cheaper one, like the Connie, like the Taurus is the cheapest of them all.
Right, but from at least, again, I could be wrong, but from what I understood, the first version of the Connie was the Andromeda, and then a whole other variant stemmed from that.
Yeah, but even now the Andromeda costs more than the Taurus does.
But,
well, that's because you get the bottom turret and the snub fighter on the back.
Right, but in terms of utility, if we look at them objectively, the exploration variant, which is the Andromeda, is the Aquila, right? And the multi-role one is the Andromeda, and the cargo one is a Taurus. The cargo one is the cheaper one. So it would be interesting if the cargo version of the Zeus is not the cheapest one.
Yeah, I agree. It would make sense if the cargo version of the Zeus is the cheapest one. I actually don't remember off the top of my head if that one has a top turret. It might only have a belly turret.
Only the Bounty Hunter version has a top turret. The rest only have belly.
See, so that's also interesting because I wonder what else they're gonna do to differentiate between all of them apart from the physical differences.
Yeah, it's like weapons, armor, and the fuel tanks and radar, kind of the same stuff as usual, as far as I've seen. And I was just thinking right now that in along the same lines of maybe they've already kind of announced all the Pyro ships, and maybe these are just other general sort of ships, kind of like the way the 400i appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's possible.
Maybe like the Ironclad also, being recently released is also geared towards Pyro, since it's kind of an armored cargo carrier, and being in Pyro, the idea is that you will be subject to attack more often given the lawlessness of the area. So having an armored cargo carrier would be a good thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it is possible that most of these unannounced ships are actually either intended for November or next year or the year after that. They might not necessarily be for Pyro. But hey,
maybe we'll get a surprise like the Liberator gets
that would
released.
be nice, but I doubt it.
Well, maybe, but they're saying these are 7 unannounced vehicles, and I think they use the word vehicles on purpose.
No, it says ships, but
it does say ships. I thought it said vehicles.
No, well, at least the post I'm looking at says ships, but
because they've made a conscious effort to refer to broadly flying and driving things as vehicles, right?
Well, it's weird because I'm getting some conflicting information because there's some that say vehicles specifically, like this post here, but then also some of the things, if you look in their actual roadmap on the website, like the sprints list things as ships, but then there's also a couple of vehicles, so I don't know which are part of the quote-unquote 7 unannounced that, are like the relevant ones being talked about, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And just when I've seen the 7 unannounced paired with another thing, I recall it being vehicles. And because I remember thinking, that could be ground and flying things. And so I don't know.
Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll get some sort of ship transport for, people with starter ships that want to go to Pyro, that want to experience the jump gate.
I mean, that could be along the same lines as like a Crusader starter. It has the ability, maybe it's not built. It's built more similarly to the Aurora, and it's not really made for anything but travel. And it has, large enough fuel tanks and a jump drive that'll get you to and around Pyro.
I suspect, personally, I suspect that whatever the Crusader starter ship is, it will probably be like an Avenger Titan competitor, like with the Avenger Titan and the 300i or something.
Yeah, from a size perspective, that makes a lot of sense.
See, I think
just shrink a C1 in the wash and then you get the new starter ship.
Yeah, but so I think the reason that could potentially be a huge moneymaker for them as well is think about how many variants there are of the 300i and the Avenger Titan. They could say like, here's the combat version, and here's the sleek, stylish version, and here's the racing version,
the introduction version,
or whatever. They do this all the time. So to me, that would make a lot of sense.
They could make one like a missile boat. Like the A1's just got like 10 small bombs. They can just have it where it's just got loads and loads of missile racks.
With interior space, because that role has already kind of been taken by the Firebird.
That's something similar to that. I mean, you sacrifice, you'll have like no cargo room, but you'll have more missile launchers.
Yeah. I guess also the Talon. What's the Talon missile variant? I mean, maybe. Or it just could be variants of other ships we've already seen, and it'll be a big fat nothing.
It's possible.
Possibly.
So what did you...
But speaking of the C1 and the A1, you saw in the notes that they will change... Small hangars can only hold up to size 2 ships, so we won't have to worry about the A1 and C1 clipping themselves when they try to land or take off.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So they will automatically go to medium hangars.
Yeah, I'm so grateful because it was such a pain trying to land the Spirit into something.
Yeah. Speaking of the Spirit, I can't wait. I know this sounds dumb. I can't wait for the E1 to come out.
Yeah, I was hoping that one would come out a lot sooner because that's generally kind of that luxury class vehicle is the one that I like the best.
Yeah, we get some people on there, take them into the little sitting area, they sit in luxury, and then we just jettison them into space.
That seems pretty cruel. So
look who we are.
What did you were talking about the ship variants, and then you wanted to start something else, and I changed it back to
that
ship
was
variants.
it.
Oh, okay. So the hangar,
the
reassigning of a properly sized hangar for the Spirits.
Yep, not trying to fit 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah.
So I guess while we are discussing ships, we talked about it a little bit last week, but the notion of pay to win. Does this
complete garbage?
Yeah, it's pay for convenience, but not pay to win.
What?
Yeah,
if I can buy a $300 Eclipse and ruin the day of somebody who spent $1,000 to buy an 890 jump, that's not pay to win. That's no.
Yeah, I don't understand the thinking. And I don't remember if we went into this portion of it, but like progression in general, there's like the three kind of ways that we colloquially think of progression in the game. It's like earning money, earning ships, and gaining rep. Did we talk about that?
No, I don't think we did. But I remember that
we kind of touched on it, but not really in depth.
Okay. That buying ships does not equate progression. It very much. I know you are, Mike, but I am very much of the opinion that reputation is indicative. Reputation and to some extent also monetary gain is indicative of progression, not, buying ships.
Or acquiring ships.
Yeah, or acquiring ships.
Yeah, because I said this last week. I mean, I've got a long list of ships that I've purchased in game, and I never use any of them. We always use the same few ships over and over again, because most of them we don't have a reason to use them yet.
And that's the big problem. Well,
I think just
problem, but
I don't know if you watch certain other streamers and they talk about like being upset of how Star Citizen focuses solely on, to paraphrase, they focus solely on generating ships to sell. And the notion that purchasing ships is pay to win, that really kind of irritates me because, like I said, ship acquisition is not progression, in my opinion. And the other half of that would be like, it doesn't really matter what ships you have because, like Alex said, you may not even use them all the time. So having an 890 jump might make you feel important because you spent a lot of money on it and maybe spent a lot of time acquiring that money to get it. But it doesn't put you at any kind of advantage, especially because most of those ships of that caliber don't really have roles to fulfill currently. They're just almost like trophies and points of pride, I guess, for some people and some orgs.
So think about it this way. Let's say we have there's 2 groups of us, 10 people each. We own a Polaris. We man that with 10 people. The other squad is 10 ships of their choice, whether they double up on people, get a hammerhead with some fighters, and then we just go toe-to-toe. Does us having the Polaris guarantee our win?
What do you...
No.
No, I don't... Not really. It's
it doesn't guarantee win or loss the way I look at it.
No, because it's one, we're have more targets to fight, but somebody might say, "Oh, you guys own a Polaris, that's not fair." No, it doesn't mean anything. And if it's just me going into space with I have the Perseus pledged, if I try to go into combat, I'm like, "Oh, I've got the Perseus, I'm gonna win because I paid to win." That doesn't mean jack shit because it's just me. I can't man those guns on my own.
Also, take into consideration if they have even one eclipse on their side, that can do some serious freaking damage to the Polaris.
Yeah, an eclipse or a retaliator.
Anything of that, especially the eclipse, because they could have, one or two guys in an eclipse and send the rest of them to distract the Polaris while the eclipse lines up a shot. There's no guaranteed victory for either side. It's really about, who you've got with you and how you planned out an engagement. And if you didn't plan out an engagement, how are you going to get out of that engagement?
Yeah, I look at it like it's kind of the same way you can look at life, right? The time is, colloquially we know that time is money, right?
Yes.
And so with players who have full-time jobs and families and all this stuff, they get 3, 4, maybe 5 if they're lucky hours to play in a day if they can play consecutive days, and that's just not enough time to acquire. If the measurement of progression is purchasing ships, it's not enough time to make enough money to buy a lot of ships.
At least not the current build. No.
I'm going to make some enemies from saying this. Who are the people who are complaining that it's pay to win? The people who can sit and play this game for 12 hours straight.
I mean, probably, but also I feel like it's just kind of the meta for complaining about Star Citizen in general, because now it's really hard to be like, oh, Star Citizen's a scam. You never get anything. They never do anything. They just take your money, right? Because we've seen a ton of progress in the last year and a half or 2 years now that they've got their tooling kind of done, and we see measurable progress. So it's really hard to say.
Oh yeah,
now,
when I first started playing, it was nothing but videos. Oh, Star Citizen's a scam. Star Citizen's a scam. So when I came into the game, I think it was just the Avenger Titan package, because I wanted a starter ship with a little bit of cargo, and I started playing. I'm like, I love this game. Even if it is a scam, I'm out $60, which I've paid more money for AAA games that have been hot garbage finished.
Yeah, like Modern Warfare.
I mean, I
was just gonna say that it reinforces. It's just really hard right now to have anything negative to say based on the prior argument. That now the only argument really is like, oh, it's pay to win because all they ever do is sell people ships.
Yeah.
Well, they just need something to bitch about.
I mean, it does also happen to be that they're not a publicly traded company. I know they have private investors, but they're not publicly traded. So, really the only way that they can get more money from, somebody who isn't their private investors is to sell ships. And I'm sure they'll start doing other things like selling plots of land again, like they did before.
Yeah, and actually that reminds me is the other kind of sub-argument that is this notion of microtransactions happening. And if I think about what a microtransaction is, I don't view buying ships as microtransactions at all, because like we said, microtransactions in games, if you think about Bejeweled or whatever, they usually are ways to either let you keep playing or let you advance beyond what you would normally be unable to do until maybe later or something, until something else happens, right? So you're buying back time. And for all intents and purposes, purchasing a ship does neither of those things. And
if you buy currency, yeah, I would see that as a microtransaction.
Well, you can't even do that, really. I mean, not
actually. You can on their website.
I don't know if you can do that,
but it's only 250,000 credits.
But it doesn't come into the PTU. It's just going to be there when the PU comes out.
Yeah, and 10 years or whenever they fully release the game.
Yeah, and even then, you don't have to do any of that. There's no limit on what you can play in Star Citizen. You could earn that money yourself, or you can save yourself a little bit of time and do it. But there's no barrier that stops you from doing anything unless you pay money. That's what I view as like kind of pay to win and microtransactions going on. Or maybe like the best argument you could make would be, oh, they sell armor and guns that you can buy. But again, like you don't need to buy any of that stuff. You can literally get anything in the game.
It just makes your life easier when they do a reset.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of.
But even then, you know, you literally go out, do one mission, just kill a couple dudes and take their weapons and stuff, and then you're good, you know?
Yeah, because those weapons, other than maybe the paint, the color on them, they're not any different than any other weapon you can acquire in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, what did we do after the most recent wipe? We went to Grey Cat, parked a ship outside of missile and laser range. We went in, we killed everybody, put all the armor in local inventory, went back to the ship, moved it to the ship's cargo, and then up in the space.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't even know if that's going to be possible after 324.
Yeah, I don't even know if looting like people is going to be possible after with 324, because and I'm not going to go too
there goes all my fun armor.
But you know, it's like, you know, how are you supposed to transfer the armor that you get from people's bodies into the boxes that they want you to put them in? Like, do we have to take off each piece individually and put them in a box? If that's the case,
I'm just thinking, like, Mike gets online, sees me at a terminal. Dude, you've been doing this for 4 days. What are you doing? I'm like, transferring all my armor.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know. Like, if we're talking about character flaws, the one that annoys me about Alex the most is the fact that he always has to move all his crap after every patch. And I was like, you know, they're just going to wipe.
Hey, I didn't do it this time.
They're just going to wipe this. Why are you wasting so much time?
I didn't do it this time.
I'm glad you finally learned. It's just a complete waste of time.
Well, it's because like normally we do everything out of Everest Harbor. So I want to get all of my weapon parts up to Everest so I can just spawn them there, do all the weapon ship upgrades. And now that we can't transfer ship parts, I just do everything at Lorville, then claim all my ships up there and just wait the time. And soon I won't be able to just claim them. I'll actually physically have to move them there.
Yeah, it almost seems like having gear is actually
a lot of ships is going to be bad.
And so, like, I guess now that we're talking about 324, I saw that they are they finally added in, I guess, for the Evocati testers, the cargo hauling missions.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I think the biggest problem, like, I think that's a great idea. I would definitely be doing it. I think the payouts are just way too low
in the current build, at least. I saw one of the missions that they showcased in one of their live streams. It only paid out like 4,000 to move 120 SCU. Like, are you joking? Hey,
was it that much?
So pretty much what we would do is we would take the mission, go to the hangar with our own ship, go to where they request it, load up, then go to the next location, unload everything.
Yes, and so, but also,
I think so.
There's also a part of that that's completely nonsensical, which is if you unload or load a ship at an outpost on a planet somewhere, somebody can literally just run up and take the cargo from you with their tractor beam. Or worse yet, at least from what I've seen from reports in the Evocati, and I really hope this is a bug, but if they run over to the elevator terminal and hit, store when you have, put cargo in the elevator to submit, for processing, they just steal it. Like, it's gone and you can't get it back.
Pretty much what you'd have to do is, if you're pulling cargo from any place that's outside, as soon as the elevator comes up, just move everything off the elevator.
If you can.
Yeah, if you can. I mean, there's no guarantee. Like, if you ask me, that elevator should probably be instanced to the person who calls it up so that only they can interact with it. And, at that point, I guess I could see the argument about, like, oh, if you just left the cargo crate on the landing pad, then somebody could take it. But if you took them one at a time and took it from the elevator grid where it was locked down and then put it in your ship's grid where it was also locked down, then nobody should be able to touch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is room in sort of the meta for the ability to, I guess, for lack of a better term, steal. Like you can steal, like have the opportunity at some point. But I also see the
Steal's just such a harsh word. How about surprise yoinking?
I guess, but I can also see the other side where, legitimate users of this, I don't know, I guess people who are legitimately doing cargo runs and stuff, which should have the ability to also protect it. And so there's like a gap between those two. And I'm not sure how they're going to fix it. Maybe a message appears when somebody tries to do it. And it's just like, oh, you can't do this because it's, someone else's property right now or something. Or if the law system will account for it.
Stat.
Yeah, like the law system will account for it or something. Maybe you still see that marker even on their ship with your stolen stuff, and you can deal with it, with aggression, but I don't know how easy that's going to be if someone's in a ship like the Carrick or the C1 and you're in an Aurora trying to move, a couple SCU stuff, if you're going to have the ability to protect your property sufficiently.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's also the additional problem where, it would make sense if they can do it if you're not in an armistice zone, right? Because that kind of makes sense that you would have no protection other than locking it down to your ship's cargo grid and also potentially having it be locked down to the elevator's cargo grid. But I don't think somebody in an armistice zone should be able to just go up, and even if your crate was sitting just on the tarmac, unsecured, that they should be able to just take it. There's an argument to be made that, if they could grab it with the tractor beam, then they should be able to grab it. But I don't know. If it's lawfully protected, like in an armistice zone, we're not allowed to tow ships in armistice zones, so why should they be allowed to take, cargo from us? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's a gap in that general experience as well. It's kind of like you end up with problems where in this world where leaving a box on the tarmac locks it to you and no one else can have access to it, there's going to be a bunch of boxes potentially like stuck to a tarmac that nobody can deal with.
Right.
And there's not really a clean up routine for it. Kind of like the way it happens with ships now, how you pull into a landing zone and there's both, pads are occupied by ships and there's ships scattered around everywhere and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, there's kind of a problem with it no matter which way you try and cut the cake.
Yeah, there needs to be like a loss of property timeout or something. I don't know. There has to be some way of dealing with these things, because coming across something of value and taking it for yourself is kind of one of the things that is sort of touted for this game. It's like you can acquire things by locating them. And we have this notion of persistence. So there needs to be some way of dealing with things that are abandoned, like abandoned ships and abandoned cargo, even if they are in armistice zones.
I guess one
thing you also need to think of, they need to keep it balanced too, because some people want to run the pirate aspect of the game. So how am I going to be a pirate if they literally make it impossible for me to be a pirate?
Right. But
yeah, and I see a lot of kind of support for that lifestyle too from CIG. Like, I think they are kind of cheeky about how they really do want people to not be pirates, but to pirate things when the opportunity arises.
So I think one way that they could potentially tackle the cargo is have it be in armistice zone, like the way that I said it, where the cargo grid of the elevator itself is locked down, because, the elevator is an elevator, and if it needs to be cleared for another player, it can just go down and delete whatever's on it and then come back up. But and then also have the ships, which their cargo grid is already locked to the owner of the ship, should also be locked. But then I think if you're in an armistice zone, what should happen is, you can move the containers around and, throw them on the tarmac, and people won't be allowed to grab them, but maybe it's only for like 5 minutes. And if you, like, hypothetically, let's say your ship blew up in the hangar or something, and there's cargo everywhere, all over the floor, and you rage quit the game, so you just logged out. But after 5 minutes, that cargo is fair game. So, somebody who's not the owner could just come along and pick it up and move it around and put it in their ship, or put it in their warehouse, put it in the elevator and put it in their warehouse, or whatever they want. But if it's an outpost or something that has no armistice zone, I think it would be fair to have it only be locked to the elevator and then subsequently to the ship. So the way that somebody would have to pirate it, at an outpost would be either to wait for them to take it off of the elevator, or to get on their ship or take it off of their ship after they've killed them. Because if they can kill them and then get on the ship, they can unlock the ship and then subsequently unlock all of the cargo. But I don't think there should be any instance in which people should be able to steal directly out of the elevator itself. I think that would be too much, in my opinion, because that's like fundamentally your inventory. Like, for instance, the whole issue where, again, presumably that bug where people could run up while you had an elevator open with your stuff in it and just say store, and then it would put it in their inventory instead. I think that's messed up and like fundamental broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think maybe it might have something to do with how armistice zones work in general. I'm willing to bet that what they can accomplish right now and what they're probably working on is different. Like, currently an armistice zone is essentially a bubble, right? It's a 360-degree sphere that goes around an area, so a station or a landing zone. We've actually seen the bubble when we try to launch a missile at Han at somebody and they happen to be on the edge of it. Like, you can tell it's a circular shape, like a dome. I wonder if maybe the limitations of being able to access things from other people and stuff currently is based on the fact that they can't size a bubble either that small or have it be small enough that it protects the elevator and not other areas and doesn't overlap with the landing area. So they just treat it as an all or nothing zone around the entire landing area.
I don't know, because they've shown that they've been able to kind of cherry pick what stuff works where and when, and so for example, handheld tractor beams don't work anywhere in station armistice zones apart from landing pads and the hangars, right? But if you go off of the landing pad in the hangar, like if you try and use the tractor beam closer to the elevator, it doesn't work. But if you're in a ship, the ship tractor beams work everywhere, but you get in trouble if you grab something you're not supposed to, like another ship or someone else's cargo. So, clearly they have the ability to if you tractor something you're not supposed to, they have the ability to curate that and either stop you from tractoring it or you get punished, or, you're just not allowed to grab it with the tractor beam. So I don't know why they don't implement that with the handheld tractor beam, because, if they're going to be moving forward with all this cargo stuff, we need to be able to use the tractor beam pretty much everywhere in that armistice zone, apart from inside, the living spaces where people are. So, every single corner of the hangar, we need to be able to use the tractor beam. Every bit of area outside in space around, a space station or just a city in general, anywhere that doesn't involve, interactions with other players, essentially. We need to be able to use those things to move cargo around. Since that's what they want us, to be using. I mean, apart from the gravlev, carts to push cargo around, there's literally no other way to interact with cargo. We can't push it with our hands or flip it or do anything, apart from, maybe pick it up with a mule. But, if they want us to be using these tractor beams so heavily, then they need to make it a little bit more forgiving to So
Yeah, but like both examples that you gave, at least for me, like I can still see that the limitations of those boundaries are still relatively large sized areas. Like they're just, I'm willing to bet they're still domes, and maybe they don't have the ability to have anything smaller than a landing pad sized dome or something, or they don't have the ability to have them overlap. And so there's not necessarily an area where you can have if you think about them as yes no's. So can you use tractor beam? Yes or no. If there's a yes dome, a no dome, because that's really kind of all that exists. There can't be a yes zone next to it followed by a no zone or something. They only have the ability to set these no zones, and there's probably a physical size minimum for them because of when they were probably created. They were probably created in a time when they weren't really thinking about like cargo elevators and, property ownership and things like that. So I'm willing to bet that this is something that'll change, and it'll come in the form of the ability for higher fidelity, yes or no zone.
Pretty much right now, when cargo does come out, it's going to suck for a little bit. You're going to have to run the risk. If you're doing something that's not in an instanced hangar, you run the risk. Maybe they have a higher reward doing that then.
Yeah, and that's kind of, on the surface, I can see why that would be potentially annoying, but I don't really have a problem with that. I think because it will probably likely benefit me just because of the way that I play. But I also don't know. I don't see it as such a huge problem that it's like game breaking or anything, but I can also see why it's annoying or could be annoying for people.
I still think the inventory changes were unneeded in general, and I know this is a separate topic, but and I don't remember to what extent we discussed it last week, but I still think that the new inventory system could exist alongside the existing one, where instead of, because I'm pretty sure this portion I saw in a YouTube video somewhere where somebody was talking about, I think it was morphologists, but somebody said that, the way these two systems could coexist well is if, instead of just pressing I when you're in a station and having it open your inventory, you actually have to walk up to one of these terminals and interact with it, and then you get access to your whole inventory. But it's still, you have the option of either interacting with it on the screen, or you can just have the old interface that we're all used to. So, there's a way that these two systems can interact and, cooperate with each other. And in the same vein, if you walked into your ship, you could interact with like a terminal or something, and then have both inventories appear. Like, I just don't see the sense in overcomplicating the inventory stuff to the degree that they have. Because is it more realistic? Yeah, I guess, but it's also just more of a hassle.
Well, from what I saw, it's not like, at least when we go to the inventory, it's not like it's going to pop the boxes out at our feet. Like if we put it undershoot on, it's going to put it on us, like kind of like how the inventory does it now. It's just we're doing it at a terminal.
Right, but like I said, my biggest stink with that is fundamentally, what happens when we go with things. Because if I kill 5 dudes and I want their armor and stuff, how do I get their stuff off of them and into the inventory? Because if it's one thing at a time, that is the most nonsensical and idiotic thing.
Yeah, there hasn't been any mock-ups that I've seen of how that's going to work, how looting is going to work beyond kind of the small loot screen that we already have access to. But what does it look like? I guess moving gear in and out of boxes that aren't like maybe on your ship, or if you have the box at a station, not a station, at a landing zone that doesn't necessarily have the infrastructure for supporting those gear lockers. Like, what does that look like?
Well, pretty much we won't know anything until it drops to the PTU and we actually get to see it.
Yeah, I was really hoping that it would come out either today or tomorrow, but I haven't seen any news on that.
The one thing I do hope, though, is gear you've purchased through RSI, thing I've purchased with real money. My biggest fear is, like, anything I lose, I don't want it to be gone till the next reset. I know they're talking about they want to put a system in place where you just go to it, hit a button, and it'll just replace that armor that you purchased with real money. I hope that comes out soon.
Yeah, if you go to, I think in front of the Aesop's in Lorville, and I think I've seen it in other locations, there's like a lost and found window. I always kind of imagine that's where that interaction would happen, is that you can go there and reacquire your subscriber or purchased items from them. I think
because I'd start wearing that armor a lot more.
Yeah, like I have all this stuff that I never use because it's so precious, It's not really that precious, but like losing it is slightly more painful than losing the stuff that I buy, hundreds of in game.
Mm-hmm.
But I also
like this Aftershock armor. If I lose this, no big deal. But if I lose that cat helmet, I'm gonna be pretty freaking mad.
Yeah, I can imagine you would be. But the other side of that is like, how do they make it so that you don't just give your stuff away and reacquire it and just flood the market, I guess, with pieces that should have been bought that aren't bought. I guess that's the other side of the coin on that one.
Don't know, but I mean,
yeah, but essentially, yes, for those who aren't familiar with what Alex is talking about, essentially any player can essentially get the game, kill somebody who has subscriber items or in-store bought items with real money, kill them and take their gear, and they would then have it. However, they don't have permanent ownership of it, so if there is a wipe or you lose it for good.
Well, it's simply put, like, if you have subscriber armor, I kill you, I take it, you come back and kill me, that's it. I don't get access to it anymore. You can just strip my body.
Yeah,
get it back
until the next wipe, and then you get it back in your inventory.
Well, no, I'm saying you would get it back if I stole it from you. I would.
Yes, yeah. You would have it until you either lost it yourself in the game or there was a wipe.
Yeah, that's how it would go. And then if a wipe happened, any armor you duplicate it would disappear, and you would just have the original set.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone.